I still remember the exact sound of my father's voice the day my future was stolen. Not yelling, not angry, just cold. We already made our decision, Ava. And in that moment, I realized I was never their daughter. Not really. I was the backup plan, the invisible child, the one expected to sacrifice everything for my sister. But what none of them knew was that 10 years later, I'd be standing in front of our childhood home, holding the deed in my hands, while my parents begged me not to take it away from them. And the worst part? They didn't even recognize me at the auction. Before I tell you what happened that day, you need to understand how my family destroyed me first. I grew up in a small 2-story house outside Columbus, Ohio. Nothing fancy. White siding, crooked mailbox, blue shutters my dad repainted every summer, like it was some sacred family tradition. To outsiders, we looked perfect. My father, Richard Carter, owned a small auto repair shop. My mother, Linda, worked part-time at a dental office. And then there was my older sister, Vanessa. Vanessa was beautiful in the kind of way that made adults forgive her for everything. Teachers adored her. Neighbors praised her. My parents worshipped her. And me? I was the responsible one. You know what that means in family language? It means, you'll survive disappointment quietly. By age 12, I was cooking dinner 3 nights a week. By 14, I had a part-time job shelving groceries. By 16, I was helping pay utility bills, while Vanessa spent weekends partying with rich kids. But somehow, she was still the one with potential. I'll never forget one Christmas. Vanessa got a brand new convertible. I got a planner. A planner. My mother smiled while handing it to me. "You're so organized, honey. This suits you." Meanwhile, Vanessa screamed in the driveway over her car like she'd won the lottery. That night, I cried quietly in my room. Not because of the gifts, but because deep down, I realized they saw her dreams as investments. Mine were obligations. Still, I believed one thing would finally change everything: college. My college fund was the only thing that ever felt like proof my parents cared about my future. Every birthday check from grandparents went into it. Every scholarship I earned reduced how much I'd need. I worked nonstop because I didn't want to burden them. I wanted them proud. God, I was stupid. Senior year, I got accepted into Northwestern. Business program, top of my class. I ran home shaking with excitement. My mother barely looked up from her phone. That's nice. Nice. Meanwhile, Vanessa had dropped out of community college 3 times and was now married to a man named Derek, whose entire personality revolved around wearing expensive watches he couldn't afford. 2 weeks after my acceptance letter, everything collapsed. I came home from work early because my shift got canceled. That's the only reason I heard them. My parents were in the kitchen whispering. Dad sounded nervous. Mom sounded defensive. And then I heard the sentence that changed my life forever. We already transferred the college money to Vanessa. I froze. My entire body went numb. Dad sighed heavily. She and Derek need help with the boutique launch. This is their chance. Chance. My chance had just been erased for a luxury handbag business. I walked into the kitchen so fast my chair slammed into the wall. "What did you say?" The silence that followed felt radioactive. Mom's face went pale. Dad stood slowly. "Ava." "No, tell me I heard wrong." Vanessa walked in wearing sunglasses indoors, sipping iced coffee like she was entering a movie scene. "Oh my God," she groaned. "You found out already?" Found out, like it was some surprise party. I looked at my father. "You gave away my college fund?" Dad rubbed his temples. It wasn't easy for us either. I actually laughed, not because it was funny, because I thought I might completely lose my mind. That money was for my education. Mom crossed her arms. Family helps family. I stared at her. Then why am I always the one being sacrificed? Vanessa rolled her eyes. "You're being dramatic. You'll get scholarships or whatever." Or whatever. That sentence haunted me for years. I looked at my father one last time. "You promised me." And do you know what hurt most? He couldn't even look me in the eyes. That night, I packed 2 trash bags full of clothes and left home. No dramatic goodbye. No one stopped me. Not even my mother. I slept in my old Honda behind a 24-hour gym for 3 nights before a coworker let me stay on her couch. I worked mornings at a diner, afternoons at a bookstore, night shifts cleaning office buildings. Sometimes I slept 2 hours, sometimes none. I remember standing in a gas station bathroom at 3 a.m., crying because I couldn't afford both shampoo and groceries. Meanwhile, Vanessa flooded social media with photos of her entrepreneur lifestyle. Champagne, designer bags, luxury launch parties, paid for by my future. Every time I saw those pictures, something inside me hardened. But pain does something strange. If it doesn't destroy you, it sharpens you. I couldn't afford Northwestern anymore, so I enrolled in community college at night. Exhausted, broke, humiliated, and angry. God, I was angry. But anger became fuel. I studied business obsessively. Marketing, investments, real estate, consumer psychology. While other students partied, I learned, I built, I survived. And slowly, I started winning. At 24, I launched a tiny online logistics consulting service from a 1-bedroom apartment with peeling wallpaper. No investors, no family help, no safety net, just me. For 2 years, I barely broke even. Then 1 client turned into 3, 3 turned into 10, 10 turned into contracts with regional retailers. By 30, I owned a multi-million-dollar supply chain company. The same people who once ignored me now called me self-made. But they didn't know the truth. Self-made people are usually just abandoned people who learned how to survive alone. You'd think success healed everything. It didn't. I still avoided family gatherings. Not because I hated them, because I hated who I became around them. Small, invisible, 12 years old again. Then one Thanksgiving, I made the mistake of showing up. Vanessa arrived 40 minutes late wearing fur and diamonds. Derek had gone bankrupt twice by then, but somehow they still acted superior. Dinner turned tense fast. Dad asked about my company without real interest. Then Vanessa smirked. So Ava finally got lucky, huh? Lucky. I nearly choked. You mean after working 3 jobs because you stole my college fund? The room went silent. Mom slammed her fork down. We are not doing this again. Again, as if my betrayal was an inconvenience for them. Vanessa leaned back laughing. Oh, please. You act like we ruined your life, but look at you now. That sentence changed everything. Because in that moment, I realized they truly believed success erased abuse. Like pain only mattered if you stayed broken. I left before dessert, and for the next 3 years, I cut them off completely. Then came the phone call, the call that started the revenge. It was my Aunt Marie, soft voice, always nervous. Ava, your parents are in trouble. I almost didn't ask, but I did. Turns out Vanessa and Derek had drained them dry, again. Failed businesses, credit card debt, personal loans, second mortgages. My parents had spent years rescuing them financially. Dad sold his repair shop. Mom emptied retirement accounts. And still, Vanessa kept taking, until there was nothing left. Then came foreclosure. My childhood home, the house they chose over me, was headed to auction. When Aunt Marie told me the date, I felt something ice-cold move through my chest. Not joy, not sadness, something darker. Closure. The night before the auction, I drove past the old house. The porch light still flickered the same way. The basketball hoop Dad installed still leaned slightly left. I sat in my car for almost an hour, remembering. The little girl who studied alone at the kitchen table. The teenager who begged to matter. The daughter who thought love could be earned through sacrifice. And then I remembered my father's voice. We already made our decision. So I made mine. Auction day felt surreal. I wore black sunglasses and sat in the back row. My parents looked older than I remembered, smaller. Dad's hands shook. Mom kept whispering anxiously. Vanessa? Nowhere, of course. When things collapsed, she disappeared. The auction began. Bids climbed fast. Investors, developers, landlords, then finally, I raised my paddle. The room turned slightly. Another bid. I countered instantly. Again, 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 until finally, sold. The gavel slammed, and just like that, I owned the house. My house. The one bought with my stolen future. But the real moment came afterward. My parents approached the auction agent desperately. "Please," Mom begged, we just need more time." Dad looked broken. "I built that house for my family." Then the agent pointed toward me. "The new owner is right there." I turned slowly, and for a second, neither of them recognized me. That hurt more than I expected. Then my mother gasped. "Ava?" Dad's face drained completely white. "No." I removed my sunglasses. Silence. Pure silence. Mom started crying instantly. "You bought the house?" I looked directly at her. "You mean the house funded by my college education?" Dad staggered backward like I'd punched him. Mom whispered shakily, "You're doing this to punish us." And that's when years of pain finally exploded out of me. "No," I said quietly. "You already punished yourselves." Dad's eyes filled with tears. "Ava, please." I stepped closer. "Do you know what it felt like washing dishes at 2 a.m. while Vanessa drank champagne using my future?" Mom sobbed openly now. "We made mistakes." "Mistakes?" I snapped. "You didn't make a mistake. You chose her, every single time." Dad broke then. Actually broke. "I thought you were stronger," he whispered. And that sentence, that horrible sentence, explained my entire childhood. They hurt me because they believed I could survive it. I stared at him with tears burning my eyes. "You know what the saddest part is?" Dad looked up slowly. "I would have given you everything willingly if you had just loved me equally." Mom collapsed into tears. Even the auction staff looked uncomfortable. Then Dad asked the question I'd waited 10 years to hear. "What do we do now?" Power, real power, is strange, because the moment finally came, and revenge suddenly felt emptier than I imagined. I looked at the house, at the peeling paint, the broken steps, the place where I spent years begging for affection, and I realized something devastating. I didn't want the house. I wanted the family I never had, but some things never come back, so I made them an offer. "You can stay," I said quietly. Mom stared in shock. Dad blinked repeatedly. "But things change." Dad nodded slowly. "Anything." I took a long breath. "You pay rent." Mom looked stunned. "You're serious?" "Yes." Dad lowered his head, and for the first time in my life, my father looked ashamed of himself. Not defensive, not angry, ashamed. "I failed you," he whispered. Hearing those words after all those years didn't heal me, but it mattered. 3 months later, Vanessa came back. Of course she did, because parasites return when resources appear. She stormed into the house demanding answers. "You gave her the house?" Dad surprised me. "No," he said coldly. "She earned it." Vanessa laughed bitterly. "Oh my God, you're choosing her now." And my mother answered before anyone else could. "We should have chosen her years ago." Silence. Vanessa looked genuinely shocked, like consequences were a foreign language. She left screaming, and this time, nobody followed her. A year later, Dad had a stroke. Minor, but enough to change him. I visited often, not because everything was magically fixed, but because life is complicated. One evening, while sitting on the porch together, he finally asked me something I never expected. "Why did you let us stay?" I thought about it for a long time, then answered honestly, "Because losing the house wasn't your punishment." Dad frowned slightly. "What was?" I looked at him quietly, realizing too late which daughter actually loved you. He cried harder than I'd ever seen. My mother started volunteering at shelters after that. Dad spent mornings gardening quietly. And me? I stopped chasing revenge. Because revenge is heavy, success is lighter, peace is lighter. But forgiveness is the heaviest thing of all. Sometimes people ask if buying the house made me feel powerful. Truthfully, no, Building a life without them made me powerful. Buying the house just closed the circle. And every now and then, when I walk past the old blue shutters, I think about the girl who left home with 2 trash bags and a broken heart. She thought she lost everything. But she was wrong. That was the first day she finally became free. Closing music fades in. And if you've ever been the child your family underestimated, the one they sacrificed, ignored, or abandoned, I need you to hear this. Their failure to love you properly is not proof you were unworthy. Sometimes people damage the strongest hearts because they assume those hearts can survive anything. And sometimes the greatest revenge is building a beautiful life without their permission.